Welcome to today's episode of the Sports Clinic podcast. And with us are three wonderful guests as we review the 2023 World Cup in India that you recently concluded. With us, returning guest, Varun Lamba, who plays cricket, is a wonderful fan, very knowledgeable. Then with us, two newcomers to the pod. Welcome, Faiz Rahman, a cricket fan from Pakistan, and Shehryar, who is a cricket analyst. He's done work with Radio Pakistan, with the Relu Katti Show, among others. Follow him, follow all of them on Twitter, especially during cricket tournaments. Some of these guys are also soccer fans. So follow them through the sports calendar. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time out. I appreciate you guys for coming on.
My pleasure, Doc. My pleasure, Doc. And it's an honor for me to be sitting with three gentlemen who, especially Varun, Dada, and you, I've been learning a lot through Twitter and conversations throughout the World Cup and other sports too. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Good to see you.
So let's start with big picture, and I'll start with you, Shehryar, and then we'll work around. Is the ODI World Cup after this World Cup still relevant? Is there going to be a 2027, a 2031 World Cup? Or do you think it'll slowly phase out towards just T20s? How important was this ODI World Cup to market to future generations? How well do you think it went? What is your take?
Yeah, I think it was really important for the future generation to market this one really well. But at the same time, I guess there was some apprehensions regarding the interest from the local public in this World Cup, as we saw in the matches where India wasn't playing. But at the same time, I think 50 overs cricket should stay, in my personal opinion, because it's like the best balance between the Test and T20 format, where you have to apply different sort of skill set. But at the same time, I think it is going to be relevant till 2031, as ICC has already planned for those World Cups. But beyond that, I think something has to be done by the ICC as well as the board members which are there to see how they can make it more relevant for the younger audience and for the people who can't spend 8 hours to watch a whole cricket match. So there can be few things which maybe can be done to make it more attractive commercially as well as for the broadcasters as well. But yeah, so far it's going to remain relevant, and we are going to see ODI cricket till 2031 World Cup as it stands. But at the same time, the bilateral series, how many do we see in that sense? It's it's still to be seen. But at the same time, just to give a little bit of stats to the audience who are watching us, if we see England between 2015 to 2019 World Cup, they played around 87 to 88 ODI matches, which came down to 47 to somewhere between 47 to 50 from the period of 2019 to 2023. Which shows you the bilateral cricket is obviously reducing the amount of ODI cricket with the popularity of T20 cricket. So yeah, obviously there are threats to ODI cricket with T20 being the main commercial format in the white ball cricket as of now. Yeah, but at the same time, I think ODI cricket is here to stay. But yeah, something has to be done to keep it more relevant and commercially more viable.
Faiz, your thoughts, Varun? Your thoughts? You guys are on opposite ends of the age spectrum, so it'll be good to see how you guys take this question. What do you think?
In my opinion, it's been following the game since age 6. It's been my favorite format, personally, because even in the World Cup, you saw. In terms of the T20 World Cup last year, we saw Pakistan lost to Zimbabwe, still got through without even playing the best cricket through whatever there was like Qudrat Ka Nizam and everything. But over here in the 50-over World Cup, we saw 4 teams who, in my opinion, were the 4 best teams. So basically, ODI levels up and gives the viewer and the game itself the best chance to see proper cricket in terms of the quality. So in my opinion, it's there to stay till 2031, and as Shehryar said, it's up to the boards now. You see Australia, India's going to South Africa, and they're playing 3 ODIs right now. But Pakistan for the next 1 year don't have any ODIs. It's up to boards. There are boards like Pakistan who are not doing that much in terms of the format, but the bigger boards, when you see England and Australia, India, the teams who reach the semi-finals, who will be probably the favorites for the next ODI competition, which is the Champions Trophy. So the bigger boards are up for it. The bigger players like Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, they'll be playing the next ODI format. So the game's there to stay. It's up to the boards about their personal preference. and how they want to come across it.
Varun, your thoughts, your take?
Yeah, I agree with both Shahryar and Faiz. I think for me personally, I'm a big fan of 50 overs cricket. Doc, you and I grew up watching it through the 80s and 90s. That was the only thing that used to put a smile on my face back in those days. And of course, my love affair with one day 50 overs will never die. Also because I play the game, teams get exposed. Teams get exposed the way some of the teams got exposed. There are these teams who were playing real good T20 cricket, and then when they had to make that transition into one day format, they struggled. And that also had a lot to do with how they prepped for this World Cup. I think Faz makes a good point. I think it all depends on how seriously you as a team or a country want to take on that format. India played a lot of one days before they walked into this World Cup. They played, I think, more one days than anybody else, and that showed in their performances also. Pakistan played very less. They were so focused on T20s, and you could see some of some of the players that they picked also, for the 50 over World Cup, showed a bit of that T20 swagger in their performances. It comes down to how seriously a country or a team wants to take on that format. T20, of course, is the new big thing. IPL is going to come in. PS, all the leagues from different countries sort of start around that time, and then the T20 World Cup. So next year it's going to be all about T20, and then again, you'll start seeing teams playing one day. See, I'll put it this way, Doc. I think the best way to sort of analyze this is that it's more horses for courses for me, right? When a big event comes around, teams start preparing for that, right? And I think when the 50 over World Cup is around the corner, around 2026, you will start seeing teams then playing those games more. Till then, there's going to be a little lull, and the focus is going to be on T20 purely because players get paid. They want to go and play in different leagues. The money, money talks. Put your mouth where the money is. You saw that with Pakistani cricketers playing 100 before the 50 over World Cup, getting injured in the process, but they were allowed to do so. So the focus is going to be on T20. But I would love.
I do agree with some of the points. I will say that T20 has been around for more than a decade, and this was the first World Cup where I really felt that ODI cricket was a lot closer to Test cricket than white ball T20 cricket. And to your point, Vern, when you say that teams will start prepping for 2027, 2026, I don't think that's long enough to learn how to play 50 over format. I think that's too short a time because this World Cup really showed that it's a completely different brand of cricket to T20 cricket. So it'll be interesting. You mentioned India. Let's come to the final. Faiz, Sharia, to me, one of the big issues that the issue that happened was that basically the choice of having Ahmedabad as the venue for the final basically hampered India. I think if this match was at Eden Gardens, if this was at the Wankhede Stadium, I think India would have won because the effect of the toss would have sort of been mitigated. I think the toss played an oversized role in the way the final went, and I don't believe when Rohit Sharma said he would have also batted first had he won the toss. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about the choice of venue? What do you think about the pitch? Let's start with you, Shahryar.
Yeah, so the choice of venue, I guess it was completely dependent upon the size of the stadium, and Ahmedabad being the flagship stadium India has to offer, a newly built stadium with, by the Prime Minister, with the name of the Prime Minister himself. So they wanted to, showcase in front of the whole world that they're going to play the final, and they were expecting themselves to win over there in front of like 135,000 people. But at the same time, I think the mistake happened with regards to the way they have been developing the pitches for the Indian matches. If you see even in the semi-final, like the pitch came under question when India was playing with New Zealand, and then in the final as well. I guess obviously the dew and the conditions did play a part in terms of helping the chasing side to chase the total in a much more convenient way. But at the same time, I think the pitch, the way it was created, it also kind of given an advantage to the team bowling first in those conditions, because the pitch under the sun, when it was drier in nature, it was more difficult for batsmen to play rather than under the lights against a new ball, and also when the dew came into play. So I guess those are the things which India did poorly in terms of managing the final, which they could have won if, I think, their team was pretty strong, if they would have made a flat surface which was good, bouncy wicket, and with a pace of the ball coming in, rather than the way they created it, to be such slow in nature that it completely made it one-sided for the team which won the toss. And I agree with you that I guess Rohit just said it, that they would have done the same thing, as they were asked to, because to lift up maybe dressing room up, it's a big final, so you don't want your team to go down from the toss itself. But they kind of did, because they knew the kind of pitch they have prepared and what was going to happen.
You make a good point. I think what ended up happening was that pitch negated the gap between the two teams. It narrowed the gap, whereby India was so dominant beforehand. Faiz, your thoughts on the pitch, on the location?
Doc, in my opinion, we all, like, when Narendra Modi, when he inaugurated the stadium, I think 2 or 3 years back, it was known since then that the World Cup final and will be hosted over here. I keep everything aside, like the conditions, because when it's a final, I don't really take conditions into account. And I would disagree to your point that I think India would have absolutely batted first had they won the toss, because it was a set template. You were seeing them, Rohit going hard at the top, and then they were getting really nice totals, and then Shami, and even you saw it in the final under lights for the first 15 overs, Shami and Bumrah, they were dominant over the Aussies. I think the only credit for the final I would give is to Patrick Cummins. Like a day before the final, the mind games that the Aussies started, like even in the press conference, he said that like silencing a crowd of 130,000 people would be a huge achievement. And then when I saw him at the toss on the day of the final, it reminded me it gave me memories from 1992. I wasn't even there in 1992, but from what I've seen in highlights and heard it from my dad, Imran Khan, and at that toss, he totally won Imran has said it himself that I won the final at the toss. If you see Cummins' demeanor at the toss, his behavior, his body language, that put India under pressure. When I was like post the final too, I've had these conversations with friends, and this was the first game in the tournament where India had scored 80 runs in the first 10 overs, but still weren't in control. This was the only game like that. Can you imagine a team scoring 80 in the first 10 overs? And with such a long batting lineup to come, Virat Kohli at the crease, they weren't in control. At 80, Australia were comfortable. So it was just body language, fielding. I would just give it to the Aussies, because I'm taking this point a little too long, but in my opinion, if any other team, South Africa would, if I call it, if they would have come and had they been bowling first and India bat, they would have lost the game. It was just the Aussies, the mentality, the fielding, the body language, and the first instance when Rohit got out and the crowd was silent, the game was done. When I saw the body language, the fielding, the game was done. I would just give the 100% credit. Obviously, conditions played a part. Ahmedabad is one ground where toss plays a huge role. But yeah, the Aussies, I would give all the credit to the Aussies.
No, I do think that the Australian game plan was fantastic. Let's go delve into the game itself. You mentioned Rohit getting out. I think that catch by Travis Head was absolutely critical, and to take that and that pressure and that final, very few players are capable. And then of course the way he batted, to me, in the first innings, there were two moments or two aspects of the game. One, I thought the KL Rahul Kohli partnership really bogged down, and two, I think when Sky came in with the tail, it really exposed how little the middle order of India had to bat in this World Cup. Take us through that, Shahryar, the Indian innings. And then, Faiz, the question for you is, when Australia batted, interestingly, India changed it up. They gave Shami the new ball and opened up the partnership. Why don't you talk about that? We'll start with you, Sharar.
Yeah, so I think India started pretty well after the loss of even Shubman Gill. Rohit kept on attacking the Australian bowlers, and he was doing it pretty well. Even when Kohli came in, he got three boundaries like in a pretty quick fashion. But at the same time, after Rohit went out, like he got out by playing I guess too many shots against Maxwell in the same over. Then it became difficult for Kohli and Rahul to dominate as Rohit was doing because there were two reasons. One is that they lost a couple of wickets, and both were two of their key batsmen. But at the same time, the pitch became more difficult to play on because as it was drier in nature, as the ball got slightly older, it wasn't as easy to score as against the new ball it was when Rohit was attacking and Shubman Gill also tried to. So that is where the pressure came in, and obviously we have to give credit to the Australian bowlers as well. They executed their plans in a perfect fashion. And even if we look at the toss, when Pat Cummins won the toss, it looked like he wanted to win the toss. He was showing a fist pump to his own dressing room because I guess they planned the game accordingly. They wanted India to bat first. They wanted to execute their bowling plans in a certain way, and they obviously knew that the way their batting has been going throughout the World Cup, they attack in the first 10 overs against a new ball, and under lights attacking against a new ball it becomes slightly difficult in terms of against a swinging ball, but at the same time the pace of the ball it becomes much more quicker than when you're playing in the afternoon on a dry wicket. So I guess everything went according to the plans, and I agree with you. Kohli and Rahul's partnership, it was kind of very bogged down in nature. Kohli, I guess he played a decent innings, like 63 balls for 152 odd runs. It was okay in comparison, when we expect him to anchor the innings throughout. But unfortunately, he couldn't for Indian fans and Indian team, and he got out. But Rahul's innings was, kind of something which was really, really odd because he played 108, 110 balls for 60-odd runs, which was really, really poor on his part. But at the same time, we have to give him, a bit of leverage due to the conditions and the execution of the Aussie bowlers. And afterwards, after Rahul, then none of the batsmen they had much of a game time in terms of if you see Surya Kumar Yadav, and he wasn't even in the initial playing 11 when India started the World Cup because Hardik Pandya was there. And Jadeja also, he couldn't play a lot of balls because India's top order was doing so well that they didn't have to. So yeah, and then afterwards India just crumbled under pressure. And yeah, so this is what happened with their batting side of the things.
Fez, the bowling, anything they
Yeah,
could have
so
done differently, or was the total just
one, in my opinion, one huge mistake that India made was treating a 240 total like a 180. They just got desperate for wickets. They got their early wickets, but like the set template throughout the tournament was Siraj and Bumrah bowling the new ball, and then Shami coming on later and wrecking havoc. Giving Shami the new ball, he gets the swing, but you totally diminish what Siraj has to offer. This has been critics have been going after Siraj. If you watch the IPL, he doesn't have the variety. So he's a young guy, he's still learning his trick, but he doesn't have the variety of like slower balls, cross seamers, like short balls. He really relies on the new ball with the swing and seam. So to get wickets, Shami got Warner, but then again Siraj, when he came in the 17th over with the two in, the boy, I think they took him for 8 in the first over, and then as a young guy he just lost it at that time, and India lost the game over there. But yeah, the mistake was treating a 240 like a winner. 240 was still a par score. If you remember the 2019 final at Lords,
241? Yeah.
it was 241, 242, and then New Zealand made a game out of it. So I think they should have stayed calmer, should have stuck to their plan. Could have been a different game, but I think there is the point of 240 not being a par score. But yeah, they treated 240 as a 180 in my opinion, and that cost them the game. Yeah, Siraj and Shami, that was a big mistake on Rohit's part.
To me, this was a riveting final. I think the way Pakistan fans look at the 99 team as the most talented team that Pakistan has had, I think India will look back at this team as how could we not have won the World Cup? And ironically, both teams lost to Australia. Let's come to some of the other teams. We mentioned Pakistan. I think if fans are honest, I think Pakistan was lucky to come in fifth place. They only really beat Netherlands and Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. They had a very good chase, but they gave up a lot of runs. And then New Zealand, it's easy to say, well, they were above the Duckworth-Lewis, but to score another 200 runs is a lot of runs that they would have needed to have scored. Obviously, Fakhar played a fantastic innings. But to me, let's just recap Pakistan. I think they were up there with maybe Bangladesh as the disappointments of the World Cup. I think their approach, their planning was subpar. I think the top order, Babar really never took off. The bowling suffered. The spinners couldn't do anything. Touch on the team briefly, both of you, Pakistan and then also England.
Yeah, so
I think
I'll go.
there's similar themes between both of them, lack of preparation. But go for it. Faiz first and then
I'll
Shara.
go first in terms of Pakistan. Look, last year I was working in Lahore, so I had the opportunity to see Pakistan play the series against Australia in Lahore, where we chased 350 in one of the games. Babar scored an amazing century. Look, I was really disappointed. I had big expectations from Pakistan because, in my opinion, the team that we selected, especially our batters, their skill set, it was perfectly suited to the format. We had like Rizwan and Babar as the anchors. Imam was scoring a lot of runs in this format. But again, Imam, what happens with Imam when the big occasion comes, he never shows up. So yeah, but again, with Pakistan, everything was set up like till the Afghanistan series where we won 3-0. Then the Asia Cup game, we were doing well, and then Naseem gets injured, Shaheen gets an injury, and then you've seen what's happening in the world. So everything it just fell apart at the wrong time, and then Pakistan did a Pakistan. There was no Qudrat ka Nizam this time. You saw there was a big gap between the level of quality other teams were playing and what Pakistan was playing. So yeah.
Shara,
Yeah, so
your thoughts?
so from my point of view, Doc, like the thing is, I think this World Cup is slightly different than any of the other disappointments of Pakistan because uh, I guess the highlight of this World Cup was the mismanagement of the whole team before the World Cup. Mismanagement of the key pacers. We had like three pacers who were injured before the World Cup, one way or another. Naseem Shah obviously being the spearhead in the ODI format. He has been one of the best pacers in the last 1.5 2 years, alongside the Indian pacers in this format. So I guess that has been the highlight for me. Like if we would have managed the team better, and the players could have managed themselves better as well, I guess the results could have been different because they looked fatigued, they looked burnt out. If you see even on TVs, a lot of commentators and analysts they did talk about how playing in Sri Lanka can take a toll on your body because of the conditions and the humidity over there. And we spent like 2 months over there, first playing the Test series, and then some of the players playing LPL, including Naseem Babar, and then we played Afghanistan over there as well in Sri Lanka. And then Asia Cup with the hybrid model, players had to travel a lot in between Pakistan and Sri Lanka, and then again in Sri Lanka we were playing few matches. So it was a complete mess before the World Cup. So I guess mismanagement before the World Cup was a key factor in terms of all the things. Yes, the planning, the approach, a lot of things they look like a mess. But at the same time, that is something we can associate with the previous World Cups as well. But this time, I think we are a pretty good team. If you look at the team on the paper, but if we could have just managed the players well, we would have monitored their workloads as well as the formats they were going to play, and to have them in a fresh form when the World Cup was coming up, that could have made a lot of difference. And I was expecting Pakistan to at least reach the semis because the World Cup was happening in subcontinental conditions, which generally do suit Pakistan and the subcontinental teams. So overall, it was a huge disappointment. And for future, I guess the Pakistan Cricket Board and the top management will have to see how they can manage the players better before any of the world tournament, and how they have to prep for the world tournament in terms of managing their workload and gradually increasing the workload as per the requirement of the format itself, and shifting to those, because you can't suddenly start playing one day cricket after coming from T20 leagues and playing the 100 and then suddenly start playing ODI format at your optimal level. It is humanly impossible. You can't do that, and none of the players have been able to do that. If you see even in the other teams like England, who haven't been playing a lot of list A cricket in their domestic league as well, because 100 has taken over the schedule of their Royal One Day Cup, and this has been an issue, and a lot of their experts have been talking about how they have to consider their one day format as one of the one of the things to improve on going forward. So they will have to schedule it accordingly. Same goes with Pakistan. We have to give more importance to, the format and the player management.
I think Ganguly made a great point in an interview that in India, longer formats are still sort of held in high esteem because that's really where you hone your techniques. And I think you can always learn the art of playing T20, but it's very hard to learn how to play ODI and Test match. And I think domestic structure in Pakistan and in England has to sort of re-examine what their priorities are. Uh, let's touch on some of the other teams. I thought that Afghanistan were one of the surprise of the tournaments. I think they were unlucky. Basically, Glenn Maxwell, probably the moment of the World Cup, the innings of the World Cup. They were unlucky to sort of not get that last position. Uh, I think that Rachin Ravindra was a standout performer. Madhushanka for Sri Lanka. Um, I think Marco Jansen to some degree for South Africa. Let's talk about some of the other teams, some of the players that sort of stood out. Uh, both of you, why don't you take us through what were some of your moments of the World Cup, some of the players who sort of really stood out for you?
Doc, so I'll take this one up first. So in terms of like my top four, top five players of the World Cup, there was obviously Madhushanka, there was Travis Head, Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli always does well in the ODI format, but the one guy that I loved watching during this World Cup, I would put his performances above Kohli, was Rohit. He changed his style, and then it really, like, it had a positive inflection on the performance of India. Then the South African bowler, you said Jansen, but in my opinion, the guy who really stood up for South Africa was the guy who was bowling with the headband. I'm forgetting his name. I just can't recall it. Yeah, Gerald Coetzee, because he was Andrik Nortje went out of the World Cup and he had big shoes to fill. He came in as an enforcer in the middle overs and it took 21, 22 wickets. And then one guy that I really would say probably my favorite performer of the World Cup was Adam Zampa. Adam Zampa, before the World Cup and the first two games of the World Cup, he was getting stomped all over the park. But to show mental strength, coming back, taking more than 20 wickets, like probably the best spinner of the World Cup. And I think Australia don't get to the trophy without his performances. So my top performers with these guys.
Yes. So yeah, talking about the teams as well, like Afghanistan, they really outdid themselves as well. Like they have been the surprise package throughout the tournament, and I guess they were slightly unlucky. But at the same time, I guess the things which they have been lacking previously was the batting as well as their pace bowlers. And both of the departments they came into their own in this world tournament, which has been a positive sign for them. At the same time, in terms of the players which really performed well. I really look at look at the players who are open to going out of their comfort zones. And I think Quinton de Kock and Rohit Sharma as openers, they both went out of their comfort zones a little bit because I guess QDK Quinton de Kock, he really wanted to do something in his last World Cup. He is retired from the ODI format afterwards. So he really took his time initially, and then he went after the bowlers afterwards, which was unlike his style where he started going after the bowlers from the very start in the bilateral tournaments and even in the previous World Cups. So, and he was the key performer for South Africa in setting up the pace and then allowing the pace to attack and himself to attack as well. On the other hand, Rohit Sharma generally has been a player who takes his time to settle in, and then he starts attacking the bowlers. And unlike his usual self, he in the last since he has taken over the captaincy, the approach he has shown is to attack the main bowlers up front, so to put the opposition under pressure, and he did extremely well in this tournament as well. And in terms of the young players, Rachin Ravindra obviously he was outstanding, and after looking at his batting, we can see how New Zealand system it develops their players. He's just 23 years of age, and he looks so mature for his age in terms of his batting, his fielding and his bowling as well. And Marco Jansen, he was outstanding with the new ball. He outperformed a lot of expectations. At the same time, Coetzee, he was exceptional replacement for Andrik Nokia. So yeah, there have been quite a lot of performers, and from Indian team as well. I guess Kuldeep Yadav, he consistently did well even in the Asia Cup as well as World Cup. Mohammad Shami, he was simply exceptional. I guess he possibly has the best average in terms of the paces throughout the World Cup history. So yeah, he has been exceptional in World Cups, and yeah, that's really really heartening to see as a pace bowling fan that how well he has done in the World Cups, which is the pressure stage. And I really hope any of the Pakistan bowlers in future, which we can produce, can replicate the same things he has done in the World Cup, especially. So yeah, and just to talk about the performance, I guess South Africa also they performed above the expectation that were from them in the World Cup, because as a team they are not generally considered to be a team which plays spin well, and considering the Indian conditions, they weren't exactly one of the top sides to be considered for semi-finals. Pakistan and England were right up there alongside England, alongside New Zealand, Australia, and India, but South Africa really uh, left behind the critics and the expectations, and they were on their own in this World Cup. Unfortunately, they couldn't go through and win their first World Cup, but yeah, they did really well as well.
Both of you mentioned Rohit Sharma. I think it's very striking how Rohit basically completely adjusted his batting and his approach to cricket as a captain, and yet when compared to him, Babar really didn't. And I think the loss of captaincy for him was not necessarily deserved isn't the word I would use, but expected is the word I would use. And hopefully he can sort of rededicate himself to reach the potential of the batter that we think he is. Let me ask you this now, last couple questions as we look forward to the T20 World Cup. Do you suspect it'll be the same sorts of teams, India, Australia, maybe Pakistan, England, or do you think Afghanistan, South Africa, New Zealand, uh, these other teams can sort of make a dent? Because it's a
Doc,
completely different format.
Doc,
Faz, what do you think?
yeah. So basically, it's really early to call it. It's next year in the summer, and one thing that we need to keep in mind is that a lot of the games will be played in the US, where none of these top players have played so far, and those pitches will be different. They'll be like not temporary wickets that we'll be playing on. So yeah, in my opinion, like right now, if I look at the games, look at the teams right now, I'd say Pakistan obviously is always up there in terms of T20 mercurial team. Just 20 overs. Fast bowlers have to bowl only 4 overs. Shadab, like the spinners always do well in terms of 4 overs. And then like if I really hope Imad has retired just recently, I really hope he takes his retirement back, and I really hope they do take Azam Khan in the squad to the Indies, and Saim Ayub has been playing a lot of cricket in the CPL. Like Pakistan's going to be there, and I think England's going to be there too, because England, in terms of T20, they're probably the best unit. And you can never count the Aussies out in an ICC tournament. You'll see them losing series like before the T20 World Cup, probably come into the World Cup, lose their first 2 3 games, and then critics will be writing them off, and then suddenly they come up and win the tournament. India, let's see, it's going to be interesting with India, because they're trying these new kids in the T20 circuit. They're doing well, but now it's interesting to see with India what they do with the likes of Kohli and Rohit. So yeah, it's very early to call, but there's some interesting things that we will need to see moving forward. So yeah, looking forward to summer of 2024.
Share your thoughts looking ahead.
Yeah, so for World T20, I think we are going to see some new faces for England, for Pakistan, as well as for India as well. Uh, because I think in the T20 formats, some of the teams they have been trying new and younger players. And from Pakistan point of view, I would say that if we are less rigid with regards to the way we have been playing the T20 cricket, then I have high hopes from young batters like Sam Ayub and Mohammad Haris, because I think on the day they can change the game in favor of Pakistan. And with Naseem Shah coming back, Pakistan would definitely be one of the favorites. And also we have to take into account the conditions, and US conditions and Western Caribbean conditions. They generally are similar as per what have been told by the analysts and everyone who has seen cricket in US. So I think some of the players which they have experience in playing in CPL, just like Sam Ayub, as was mentioned as well. And he won the player of the tournament in the last CPL. He almost not single-handedly, but yeah, he was a key player to make his team in the final. And Guyana wasn't able to win it for like number of years now, but he was a key performer this time, the clutch player for them. And throughout his career, if we see under 19 cricket as well, he has performed in the big matches, in the knockout tournaments as well, in the knockout stages as well. So yeah, I do expect England, Pakistan to bounce back in the upcoming World T20, and they are going to be there right up there, among the favorites for the World T20. And India, Australia, they are top teams, and we can't write them off at all. So they are obviously going to be there as well. So yeah, I'm seeing like a much more competitive World T20 tournament than we have seen the 50-over World Cup, where some of the teams they didn't really show up.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. 6 months will go by in a flash, and we'll be right back here with you guys again, previewing the T20 World Cup. Thank you both for showing up.
It was a pleasure, Doc. It was a pleasure, and yeah, hopefully we'll be doing this more regularly for every sport. I know, and I know me and you also support United, so probably on a United podcast too. So yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, same from my side. It was a pleasure, and I guess the questions were really good. And yeah, it was great talking with all you guys.
Thank you both.